Hi booktube, Erin here. Hope you're doing okay. Today I've got another random recent reads video, and it's particularly random, very last minute and impulsive on my part, because I've just finished reading Between the Woods and the Water by Leigh Fermor, and this is the second in a series of books chronicling his journey across Europe from the Hook of Holland to Constantinople. And in this book, he's going across Hungary and into Transylvania, and then he's just kind of on his way into Serbia, I think, as it ends, or I think it's Serbia, or yeah, I'll find out when I start the next one. But there's a change of pace and there's a kind of change of tone in this. So the first book, A Time of Gifts, is full of lots of youthful energy and enthusiasm and naivety as well. And there are moments where you're getting flashes of that as well. But it's a little more mellow, I think, in its tone, this book. And I think that's just because with both books, with A Time of Gifts and this one, there's a massive gap between the events and then Leigh Fermor actually writing it all down. So I think he wrote the first one in the 70s. Maybe he started it in the 60s, but it was published in the 70s. And then this one didn't come out until like the mid to late 80s, I don't think. So he was quite a bit older, and he didn't have as much to go on. His diary entries for the period were really sparse. And so there's an interesting tone in this one. You feel at times a little more disconnected from the young Patrick on his journey, and you're there kind of side by side with the older Patrick as he's poring over maps and encyclopedias, not only trying to piece together his own story, his own memories of this journey, but also kind of piecing together or maybe speculating on the history of the regions he's travelling through, but particularly certain areas in Transylvania where the history and the lineage of the people who live there is contested, and different people in different places have different stories. But it's still really, really fun, really fascinating if you're the kind of person who loves to just make random connections between different places and people and just general things, pieces of music or art or books or whatever. Then this is that kind of book where his mind just kind of goes off and he just makes these connections as he's wandering around. And we'll see what the next one's like, because the next one didn't come out for a long time. It didn't come out until after he died, and I think he didn't properly finish it. I think because everything gets so sparse and it's getting harder and harder for him to remember it. I suppose it's just taking him longer to piece everything together. So I think The Broken Road, does it say? I'm just trying to see if in here it says if anyone helped him with it, or if anyone finished it off. Yeah, edited by Colin Thurban and Artemis Cooper. So I suppose they sort of found what he'd started on this and kind of put it all together. And if there's any noises, any sniffling or anything, it's Audrey, my parents' dog, who I'm looking after. Let's see if I can move this down. There she is. Audrey, look. There we go. So that's Audrey. So hopefully she doesn't eat the tripod. So there we go. So I don't know if I'll go straight onto this. In fact, I'm not going to go straight onto this. I'm going to leave it a little while, just to give a bit of space between each one. That seemed quite nice. What I really quite liked about beginning of Between the Woods and the Water was that it does start exactly where you left off, in a time of gifts. He's on a bridge about to cross over into Hungary. And the first sentence is, perhaps I had made too long a halt on the bridge, which, you know, to think that he'd spent a decade writing this book, I thought was quite a funny way to start it. And it'd been a few months since I'd read A Time of Gifts, so again, it seems to all work together. So I'll leave a similar gap of a few months before I read the next leg of his journey. And I was thinking, because I started Between the Woods and the Waters when I finished Proust. And I was thinking after reading that I would look at some of the novels that I want to read and read a novel. So I'm already reading a healthy sized anthology of poetry. I'm already reading a really big biography. So maybe, you know, just some fiction would be good. But I'm actually being drawn to even more non-fiction. And this is a book I picked up. I haven't included it in a haul video or anything. It's slipped through the net. And it's, I'm not sure what Audrey's doing. Anyway, I'll just leave it to it. It's A History of Reading by Alberto Manguel. And it's one of those books I've been thinking about getting for some time, and I just haven't got around to it, and just keep forgetting that it's something I'd want to get to. And then I was watching a live, it was not live, just a kind of conversation video between Steve Donoghue and Jared Henderson, and this book came up. I can't really remember why, and it kind of triggered my memory that this is a book I wanted to get. So just there and then I looked for a version online and got this very lovely Penguin edition of it, which I really, really like. It's quite handsome. It's a bit sort of squished. You can tell someone's really squished it into a bookcase. But I just really love it. It's got tons and tons of great illustrations, and as well it's got this really lovely like fold out timeline in the middle as well. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and just the kind of thing I'm gonna just want to eat up. So I think this is going to be my next stop, and I'll get back to reading fiction at some point. But yeah, this is kind of where my mood is taking me. So that was the other kind of impulsive element of this random reading update was, I suppose, a kind of sudden shift in my reading plans, or even in my reading mood. So there we go. That's all I've got to say for my reading at the moment, and I'll be back. I suppose it won't be too much of a wait between now and my wrap-up video for the month, so we'll see how everything worked out then. So for now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.